There's always capacity and scope for innovation, and nobody can claim to be a true expert on anything. We all like to think we're expert on certain things, but every time I've certainly found in my 30 years, I've got a grip of a subject, I've realized there's twice as much that I don't know.
Today, I'm talking to Al Kingsley, the CEO of NetSupport, a company operating in the EdTech space. In this episode, we'll be talking about the reasons why you sometimes need to temper your enthusiasm, the benefits of working in an ever-changing and evolving industry, why you need to be bold and brave in your career, and so much more. Al has around 30 years' experience in educational technology and digital safeguarding, backed up by a passion for education, in particular governance and raising organizational performance. He is also the author of multiple books, including My Secret EdTech Diary, My School Governance Handbook, and My School and Multi-Academy Trust Growth Guide. And a big thank you goes to Al and NetSupport for sponsoring today's episode. So, welcome to episode 352, a return of the IT Career Energizer podcast after a rather extended and unplanned break. I know that a number of you have missed listening into the show over the past year, so a big thank you to everyone that has sent kind messages of support. And it's a particularly warm welcome to today's featured guest, Al Kingsley.
Hello, Phil. Lovely to be here and to be number 352.
Yes, it's a fair number now, so I'm delighted you can join me. So, Al, can we maybe start by getting an understanding of NetSupport in your current role as CEO?
We certainly can. NetSupport, we are on a learning journey. We are 34 years young, so we're starting to get the hang of it. As a business, we're probably weighted towards EdTech, but we also operate very much in the commercial space as well. We started out with traditional DOS, which dates us a little bit, remote control, the concept of seeing and managing a remote computer without having to jump in your car and head up the motorway. And then we evolved back in the early 90s to say, actually, if we can see a computer that's 100 miles away, wouldn't it be great if we could see 30 computers that were 2 meters away in the classroom? And we launched our first classroom management solution. And those solutions have evolved over the years to provide the tools, if we think within the school context, to remotely manage all of the IT infrastructure, everything from inventory and distribution and managing internet and application use, through to seeing all the kids' devices in the classroom, shepherding and nurturing a lesson, keeping them on task. And then that final bit, which is something I'm passionate about, which is also, as our children use more technology, keeping them safe online. So that monitoring of what they're doing, alerting if they're potentially accessing content that's at harm. And we've scaled to the point now where our products are available in 25 languages. We have just over 20 million users, and we operate in 110 countries around the world. And we are most definitely still learning.
Wow, that is a fair footprint. That's a size and a
Yeah.
half. So, and in terms of obviously I mean, you touched on it there, the evolution of technology over that time. How do you make sure the company stays, you know, up to date and maybe looking ahead to what's coming along? So, I mean, everybody's talking about AI. So, is that a consideration?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really fair question. I mean, there is definitely an evolution, but I think both of humans as well as of the business. So the human bit, I suppose, touching on it is, I think when you start on your journey, you have all these amazing ideas, or so you think in your head, and you just want to create stuff and make stuff. And over time, you realize that actually the best bits of our products are the ideas that our customers have shared. Typically, I love your product, but it'd be great if it could do this, Al. And so we have very much evolved into a footprint of co-production. We very much work not selling into education or the corporate market, but being a very firm part of it. So many of us are involved. You know, I share my passion for education, but I'm chair of a multi-academy trust, an alternative provision academy. I spend quite a lot of my time working in schools with educators and leaders, so that whilst I'm sharing insights to hopefully help them, at the same time, I'm absolutely via osmosis learning where the pain points are, the frustrations are. And then there's a group, these things all connect together. I've got 30 years under my belt now in educational technology. I'm very lucky enough to be the chair of the British Education Suppliers Association EdTech group. And that's all about market research, insights, and looking forward. Now, I'd argue technology, and an area I know that will have been covered at many times within the other guests you had, Phil. You know, we're actually looking at education and technology now for a workplace that not only has had a paradigm shift the last couple of years, but the skills we want in the workplace, we're trying to shoot with our offer in schools 10 years ahead to what will children need when they leave the educational system. And so it's about rapid adoption. So we've learned as a original traditional desktop developer where we do releases once or twice a year. We've very much now got, cloud offerings where we're doing much more agile development and responding much more quickly to the challenges and the opportunities that customers need.
Great. That's good to hear. So you really, yeah, you should be on top of the game in terms of where you need to be and what you're looking ahead to.
We try. That's the key. I think
Yes.
you can never do as much as you want. The smart money with experience is choosing the right things rather than necessarily the cool things.
Very true. Yep. Good. Okay. So Al, can you share with us a career tip, one that the audience may not be aware of and perhaps should be?
It's a difficult one because I think the truth of it is I always think failures are stepping stones to success, and I think I've made quite a lot of stepping stones along the way in my career under the umbrella of failures. I think the career tip for me is, and I'm only modeling it really on my own personal journey and experience, is that as you enter your chosen pathway and you want to make an impact and you want to show your capabilities, there's a natural persuasion to be the first person to jump into the conversation. I've got this great idea. I think we should do this. I think we should do that. And over time, I've learned, and it's something that was shared with me as a youngster. You're born with two eyes, two ears, and one mouth. Use them in appropriate proportions. That actually, increasingly, I don't need to be the first person to speak to prove my worth or my insight. I actually find it's much more helpful to listen to others first, assimilate the views, and then share an insight based around what I've heard. So, is it fair to say temper your enthusiasm where it's not necessarily going to do you any favors, but listen a bit more first before you dive in?
Yeah, absolutely. I like the temper your enthusiasm. That's a great phrase. So, but you're right. I think, yeah, the art of listening, and it's something you tend to develop as your career progresses as well. Um,
Very much
I
so.
think, I
Very
think
much
as
so.
people, yeah, people learn, don't they? And I think that's a very good tip.
I think it's confidence based as well, isn't it? We all want to prove ourselves, and as we become more comfortable and confident in what we know and what we do and our role within whatever ecosystem we're working in, you're in a better position where you don't necessarily feel like you need to prove yourself at every meeting.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Al, can you tell us about your worst career moment and what you learned from that experience?
Um, it's a really interesting one. As I said to you, I've tripped up and made poor decisions many a time. Direction of travel. In the commercial sense, I suppose the worst decisions are backing the wrong horse. Whether it's spending a lot of time developing for OS2 or for Windows RT, and then finding those platforms didn't evolve, and you've spent an awful lot of time and money. It probably sounds quite, dare I say it, cheesy, simple, but for me, the worst thing is we're quite a tight knit team as a business. The average tenure at our company is over 15 years. So the worst moments for me are seeing people that I value as friends leaving the organization. And they're the ones that really resonate because I think no matter how much you do in a company and no matter how much the opportunity is the right reason for people to leave, for me, I always feel there's a sense of failure that you weren't able to retain that person within your team. So it's not an IT moment in the purest sense, but I think it is relevant because with the change in the workplace and the fact that previously we would recruit people who were within an hour's commute of our head office, now we can work from anywhere for anyone virtually and remotely. And actually, suddenly, the power of the person, that awareness of retention and the value of people, I think has been significantly amplified.
Also, have you seen a shift in terms of retention since we've had this sort of new ways of working?
There was a shift about 18 months ago. We had a short period of time where we had people who were, look, I've been offered a job and it's twice the salary, and I'm working for a tech startup in California or wherever, and I can do it from my front room. So, I'd be a fool not to embrace it. But we've also seen subsequently there was a bit of a rationalization in the IT market. And sadly, there were quite a lot of companies that were rationalizing and laying off technical staff.
Yes.
So that kind of peak where things went a bit crazy has come back to perhaps more of an equilibrium. I think it has changed forever the dynamic of what we deem as effective working. This sense as an employer that people need to be in the building and you need to be able to see them working to have confidence they're working, to changing to much more of an effective, um, often hybrid, but a sense of actually trust people to get on and do the job. And if in the case of our organization, for those not customer facing, if that means that they've decided they're going to work from 12 in the morning till 9 at night rather than first thing in the morning because it works better for them, or they take a gap in the middle for family reasons, I don't mind if the work gets done. I think it's changed many of our perceptions and the way that we actually track and monitor.
Yes, it's interesting to hear how you've embraced that. Yeah, I think every company has a different view. I think some probably feel that the pendulum swung too much one way, and now they're trying to rebalance it. Um, but yeah, I think every organization is different. So it's whatever works for the individuals together with that organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And moving away from your worst moment, can you maybe tell us about your career highlight or greatest success to date?
Um, yeah, there's a few, I suppose. In one sense, and I don't suppose we're unique in it. We're a privately held business, and we compete in a sector against large organisations that are all very much not in the private space, carry significant funding, and we've always kind of quite liked being the bit of the underdog. So over the years, we've been really fortunate, both in our technology for the instructional technology for classroom management, being selected by a number of leading brands of computer devices to OEM, put it on their machines with their name and use it as their chosen technology. And on the back of that, being rolled out for projects countrywide, whether it's places like Kenya or Malaysia or the United Arab Emirates or Canada or Peru. And so many of the highlights for us, I think, are where we recognize that the strength of the technology and the support we provide trumps the fact that we don't have 10,000 employees and a significantly larger marketing budget. Now, we've obviously grown over the years and we have scale with an office in America and Canada as well, but on a much smaller scale. And we've kept that human side. So I think if you take pride in your products and you don't have a business where your ambition is when do I exit or how much are we worth, but actually do we take pride in our products and do we enjoy the job we do every day? The pride, I think, comes when the people that you respect within the chosen sector look at your solution and say, you know what, that's the best fit, and we'd be happy to put our own brand name on that. For the purpose of a podcast, I won't name the brands, but suffice to say, the majority of the large household names for computers that you might find in PC world or certainly in a classroom have our technology with their name on wrapped into their offering for education.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. It's also interesting to hear how different people measure success as well.
I struggle, and probably it's a reflection, and many would say, well, that makes you a pretty poor CEO, Al. But I've never felt the number one driver in our business is our EBIT and our viability. Now, of course, it has to be a factor because profitability provides the opportunity for investment, for growth, and also for insurance, so that you are always protected in when there's any hiatus in the market, like the pandemic. But I also think that the measure of success for us has been about continuity. There are very few businesses in our sector. We were established in 1989 that have weathered all the storms and are still going, still offering solutions built on kind of that evolution of technology and learning from the marketplace. And we do take pride in that. And that probably doesn't resonate very highly if you were looking at it from an investor perspective or a pure fiscal perspective. But we've been able to do it. And the one thing that I've always liked about that approach is that we've had autonomy. We can make our own choices. We're not sitting there waiting for someone to say, "I, but you need to change because next quarter you need to make this much profit." We're doing things based on a sustained growth. And the last few years is a great example. We've made a decision during the pandemic and onwards, rather than to think about how do we reduce costs and perish the thought, lose staff. We chose to hire and use the window where we knew there was going to be a downturn in activity to fast track development of solutions, because we recognised that actually post pandemic the landscape's not the same, and to come back out post pandemic with a solution that was designed for a pre pandemic workplace was always going to be a compromise.
Yeah, that was very well put. Okay, Al, what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT in particular?
I can say hand on heart, as I did say to you, I wear many hats. So I'm an apprenticeship ambassador and I chair our employment and skills board for the region. I think there is huge amounts to be optimistic and excited about. The one thing that I love about technology more than anything else, even if the end users don't always adopt and have quite the same view, is that it's ever changing, ever evolving. There's always capacity and scope for innovation, and nobody can claim to be a true expert on anything. We all like to think we're expert on certain things, but every time I've certainly found in my 30 years, I've got a grip of a subject, I've realized there's twice as much that I don't know, and it opens another door. And I think if you're a lifelong learner, if you're motivated and inquisitive, then technology means that it's never, you've reached the pinnacle, you've reached the peak, and there's nowhere to go. You alluded at the beginning to AI, and there's so many different strands, whether we're looking at the role of AI in technology, whether we're looking at Web 3.0, whether we're looking at how we store our data, whether we're thinking about the political pressure the other way on data privacy. They're all opportunities to adapt. And when I said we spent a couple of years during the pandemic doing that pivot, I'm very much kind of a fan of that mindset of digital disruption, that year on year, your product enters as a kind of minimum viable product for your customers. And year on year, you add features based on ideas that you've got, feedback from your customers. And often, if you're honest, because your competitors added a feature and you think, oh, we need to make sure we're competitive. But you do reach a point in that cycle where your product does far more than anybody as an average user needs. You've just reached that point, and you have to be quite bold to make a decision to try and do that digital disruption where you kind of say, right, we're going to take to that point. Now we're going to start again by the best bits of what we've done before, what we've learned, but wrap it up in a platform and an approach that's net applicable for now, not from 10 years ago. And it is a risk. It takes a lot of cost and effort and time, but it's also hugely exciting. And it also helps with your staff development. Your developers are learning new skills, new platforms, new approaches to the way that we deliver technology. And every year, the platforms that we support unlock new potential that we can further exploit and integrate to make our products more effective.
In terms of technology that specifically you think you might be able to leverage in the future, have you got any ideas around that?
I think the AI conversation is one that's obviously dominated, perhaps not always that separation between the generative and the non-generative. And in the context of some of the sectors that we're particularly dominant in, actually the non-generative AI, the methodologies for sampling significant amounts of local data and identifying where there are gaps in learning, areas that a child needs to refocus on, I think are really, there's huge potential there. I think we're also seeing the ability to storing data securely in the cloud and joined up ecosystems. We've often been, I think, as product evolutions come along, we tend to often find we've got quite a hodgepodge of siloed solutions, and there's now an opportunity for more standardization and connecting of systems, which means now we're starting to see data being used not just to show shiny dashboards, but data that actually has a purpose, that actually quickly can inform and shape a change or a decision that needs to be taken by a business. So that kind of business intelligence linked around the technology is really key. And I did say to you, 1989, first DOS remote control product. Ironically, we've come full circle post-pandemic, and most of our workforce are at home, mobile, very distributed. And the technologies that actually keep them working, keep their technology up to speed and operational when they need it, can support the user and the device, have come full circle to being really one of the key cornerstones of recognizing that the real value is a member of staff sat not being productive. So I think technology constantly allows us to refine what we're offering, but we just have to constantly be mindful of the fact that it's not a one platform world anymore. We used to be very much a Windows specialist, but we develop for Windows, Mac, Chrome OS, Android, iOS, and the list goes on. And the flexibility that's built around that, I think, is critical. And that's, I think, what users and customers want. They want a platform agnostic technology that they can move between devices, handheld or desktop.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very well put. Yeah. Just a brief interruption to ask you if you can think of one other person that would benefit from becoming a listener of the show. It would be fantastic if you could share this episode with them. The objective of the show has always been to help as many people as possible in developing and building successful careers in tech. So by sharing this episode with one other person, you'll be contributing to achieving that objective. And please remember to follow or subscribe to the podcast in your podcast app. Have you signed up to the IT Career Energizer newsletter? By doing so, you'll receive early notification of upcoming episodes and featured guests, exclusive content, and early access discounts and offers. In fact, when you sign up, you'll receive our Manning Books discount code, giving you up to 40% discount on Manning's range of tech books, many having been written by previously featured guests on the show, including Reuven Lerner's Python Workout, Docker in Practice by Ian Mile, and many more. Just head over to itcareerenergizer.com and sign up. Good. Okay. So, Al, we're going to go into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. You
Uh-oh.
ready for this? Okay. So, what first attracted you to a career in tech?
It wasn't finance. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on the end of that quick reveal, which is when I left school, my parents thought the best career option for me was to go into finance and banking. And I quickly learned in banking, you have to follow a system that you've had in place for 20 years. And in IT, it's a constantly new and evolving platform. So the attraction of IT was nobody knew much about it. And every month there was new technology that you could put into place.
Yes. And do you think that's the same now?
I think so. I think IT now, I mean, it's a broad term, isn't it? But I'm seeing the career options that are available. I mean, every company has a dependency on IT. It's a safe sector to be developing your skills in, but it's also so broad. I do quite a lot, not surprisingly, working in schools with sixth formers looking at career choices. And we'll often talk about a new app. And we need graphic designers, we need animators, we need back-end IT programmers, we need cloud-based developers, database developers, sales and marketing. Actually, you can take every child in the room and identify an area of strength or discipline that they could apply within the digital space. And let's be honest, the odds are technology will have a greater and greater part of that core layer of society and certainly the workplace as the years roll forward. The smart bit is figuring out what technologies are likely to move forward and which ones will gradually become redundant.
Yes. Yeah. If we all knew that, we'd be millionaires, as they say.
Absolutely.
Right. And what is the best career advice you've ever received?
Other than listen more. I suppose that the best advice I've received is stand your ground. And that served me well. And that might seem like a bit of a contradiction, but if you've listened and you've absorbed and you genuinely believe something's right, don't worry where you are on the food chain. If you think you've got the right way to do something, don't be scared based on how people might respond to stand your ground and try and justify why you think there's a better option. I really respect the people in our organization who are comfortable to say, Al, I disagree. Have you thought about, but hang on a minute. And I think that's something that both is important for the individual to have the confidence to do, but I also think it's important for management to foster that people feel they can do that without without judgment, so to speak.
Yeah, I suppose it's the balance, isn't it? Being challenging and being disruptive to a point where it's unproductive.
Yes.
So it's getting it right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And conversely, what's the worst career advice you've ever heard or received?
Higher salary equals greater success.
Yes,
And in simple terms, that sounds a bit snappy. Don't pick the next promotion, the next career progression, the next move based solely on finances. I get we've all got our commitments in life we want to do, but as the years have gone on, the difference between doing something that you really enjoy, that you're passionate about, that you feel has purpose, and doing something because that's what's expected of you might seem something you can do for a few years, but trust me, 10, 20 years later, it's not the path you want to follow. And I'm a real advocate that if something really fascinates you, if something really gets you up in the morning, that's worth a bit on the paycheck.
it is, exactly. And if you were to begin your IT career again in today's world, what would you do?
Well, if I could take the skills and experience I've got back with me, I'd probably be quite lucrative knowing that what was coming up as a. Um, do you know what? I'm in a really position that there's not necessarily many things that I would change. Um, I was in a position where I worked, got involved in finance, and then ended up providing advice and consulting to organizations because I had a background in finance and IT. And at that point, there weren't many people covering that. And that snowballed into meeting the right people, coming up with technology, and joining up with the founder originally at NetSupport and
Yeah.
being a two-man band, a three-man band, a five-man band, and going on a journey. And I suppose from that point of view, um, if you follow that kind of journey, I think for me, it's always a case of go with your heart, go with your instinct, don't go for the best pay, go for something that really gets you up in the morning and excites you.
Yeah. Ideal. And what career objectives are you currently focusing on?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm in the early part of my career, but I am absolutely motivated and a committed lifelong learner. So my objectives are, I suppose, in all honesty, because I do have a passion around education, lifelong education. My biggest objectives are about making a difference, doing stuff that will actually have genuine impact and purpose. I spend a lot of time connecting people, wearing my different hats within the broader technology community, and I feel that's a bit of giving back. And of course, in a business sense, we're still very competitive. And my first obligation is to protect all of the people that work in our organization so we don't make stupid decisions or risk our future. So there's a few that wrap around that.
And what's the number one non technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
I'm going to say it's my communication skills, or I hope it is. I think if you look at all the skills we learn in school and then go to an employer and say, what are the key skills that you want from a young person right now? It's communication skills, it's your critical thinking skills, it's about resilience. Then it'll be digital skills, and then it might be product or topic specific experience. But the communication skills really come to the fore. And I think if you're confident and comfortable in talking, discussing, challenging, and as your role evolves, maybe having the confidence to stand up in front of people and stand by your experience or your advice or your suggestions. For me, that confidence to articulate and speak clearly has been kind of the number one non-technical skill for me.
And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
I'm an avid reader. We all probably, or many, like social media. I am very active in terms of seeing new articles, research that's coming out. I do a newsletter. I get involved in podcasts. I write lots of articles that I share with other titles. I research lots that fed into my books. And I think that's tied into that lifelong learner, being inquisitive. I'm very lucky, and I never forget the fact that I'm very lucky that I still have an absolute passion to want to learn more or understand more. And with technology moving so fast, I'm never catching up. So for me, that motivator is there's always interesting things you can learn about. Maybe some transfer to the workplace, maybe some are just in the data banks and interesting, but I'll take that.
And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
Well, spare time's an unusual term because I probably overcommit, and I enjoy the fact that my time is very full between the corporate and the education world with my roles in schools. I am a proud pooch owner, and I do enjoy my switch off time, call it my well-being time, is hanging out with my pooch in the early hours of the morning, and we tend to have lots of conversations, and he's a very good sounding board for all my latest ideas, and to date has never disagreed with me, so I'm on a winning streak. I've also over the years had a bit of a passion for classic cars. I used to in my younger days get hands on with wanting to restore them, typically restore them and then sell them again. But I do love old classic cars. So when the window opens up and there's a chance to go to a few classic car shows and that kind of thing, you might find me there, not thinking about technology and thinking about the other end of the scale, the old stuff, which I prefer to the new when it comes to cars.
Al, can you share a parting piece of career advice?
Goodness, it's always difficult, isn't it? A parting piece of advice: be bold, be brave, go with your heart. Don't go with the obvious. Look and for opportunities and careers where you will be motivated and energized. I see it all the time with educators wanting to take a step out of education and looking to perhaps come up with an idea for a product that they could create with built on their experience. And that challenge is always that confidence to take the leap. There's always different ways to take that leap to soften the fall, but you've got to be bold and make that first decision. And I think throughout anything in life, if I wanted to dissect regrets, it would be things that I thought about as ideas and didn't follow up on at the time. And now look back and think, oh, that would have been quite good. I would have enjoyed that. That could have been successful. So, yeah, be bold and be brave.
And finally, how can we find out more about you and connect with you?
So if you want to find me, if you're a Twitterer, Al Kingsley _edu. If you're a LinkedIner, Al Kingsley. That's a nice, easy one. You can, my personal blog, alkingsley.com, and netsupportsoftware.com is where you'll find all the juicy stuff that we've been making over the last 30 years.
Al, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been great chatting with you.
My pleasure, Phil. Thank you.
You've been listening to Phil Burgess and Al Kingsley on the IT Career Energizer podcast. For links to everything we discussed in the show, visit itcareerenergizer.com/E352. And thanks once again to Al and NetSupport for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. I'm your host, Phil Burgess, and I'll catch you in the next episode.